I'm Chase, and this is All Things Round. Today, we're looking at two bronze divers and comparing them, old versus new. Now, both of these watches are San Martin watches. One is the newer iteration bronze diver with the blue dial that I just reviewed in the last video, and the other one is going to be the discontinued model. However, they are still selling them. I'll leave a link down below. Now, let's just flip the camera around and hop right into this comparison. Okay, and here are just the differences of the cases that were sent. This is the old San Martin bronze diver that I got with the green dial, and this is the case that came with the San Martin bronze blue dial. So clearly they're upgrading their case construction. I really like this, especially because it has places that you can lock for traveling. Anyway, that's not what you care about. Let's compare the watches. Okay, so here are the two watches side by side. You have my old San Martin bronze with the green dial and the new San Martin with the blue dial. Well, I can tell you already the blue dial just looks 1,000 times better, especially with that sunburst effect. There is no bursting effect on this at all, but there is on this watch. It's actually quite beautiful. Now, another thing that I really realized while having this in my hand compared to this, because I really like this watch. I've had this watch for quite a while, and then I had this in my hand and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They paid a lot more attention to detail. And I'll give an example. Like the indices. I think they took greater care on the indices when it comes to this. They are applied and they look great. They have the same type of material, like some sort of tarnished gold style material, maybe brass, maybe bronze itself, not really sure, with lume on the inside. Whereas the San Martin green is only printed, then the lume is applied directly to the dial. So sort of cost cutting there. Another thing that I realized was the bezel. The bezel on the green is a single solid piece of bronze, whereas the one on the blue dial is a two-piece bezel. It has the bronze bezel and then it has the bronze bezel insert, whereas the green doesn't have an insert at all. Now, before I was talking about the bezel at the 12 o'clock, you can see that the green dial has a full solid lume triangle, which is extremely bright in the darkness. And you can see on the blue dial that it just has a single pip right in the middle of that sort of, hollowed triangle. There's nothing filling it in. The printing on the blue dial is, to me, a lot better. It seems a lot more crisp than the San Martin of the green, but overall, I think they both have a pretty great aesthetic. Both have very similar aesthetics when it comes to the minute track that goes around the entire outside. However, they just wanted that blue dial to pop just a little bit more. Even the hands, I feel, were done a little bit better than the more subdued colored hands of the green. Now let's take a closer look at the insides. Now, it's no surprise that the blue dial is extremely beautiful, especially with that sunburst effect. But what movement is inside of this? This is an NH35, which is in a lot of watches. You can see that that date window, like I explained in the unboxing in my initial review, that date window is so magnified that it just pops and fills that entire Cyclops. It looks pretty good. Now, it is slightly off. You can see the bottom of the Cyclops does not necessarily, not quite line up with the bottom window of that date wheel, but it's close enough. Now, again, the NH35, hacking, hand winding, but one of the gripes I had before was the fact that when you near the midnight, so let's go ahead and near the midnight, it starts ticking over, not even at the midnight. It starts ticking over right there, just before 10:30. So it literally takes an hour and a half of ugliness for this thing to slowly start changing over, slowly halfway in between, and just before the midnight, it pops over. That to me, it just feels low quality in my opinion. Of course, this is all just my opinion. It feels just slightly lower in the quality. We'll just set that down, leave that crown popped out, and we'll do the same to this. Now, inside of this is the PT5000. Now, thank you to the subscriber who put it down in the comments of my last video and then actually gave me a link where they're still selling this watch. They're still selling new old stock for these. It's linked in my prior video that I'll put in the corner up here. But PT5000, which means it is basically an ETA 2824-2 clone. So let me go ahead and go all the way around to the midnight. Not really sure where this had stopped. I just started winding up. Okay, so right here you can see that it's 11 o'clock right now, 11 p.m. And as it hits about 11:30, right there, about 11:47, it starts to pop over, but not too much. Not when you hit the midnight and boom, it immediately clicks over. I think this just feels higher quality. Now remember, these watches were both the same price. However, when you look at the details, when you look at the things like the way the dial is on this one compared to the dial on the blue, they put a lot less effort in the dial on this than they did on the blue. I mean, that's not unreasonable to think they'd have to cut costs somewhere. The NH35 is a workhorse. It's extremely reliable, and it's in a lot of things. And if you ever want to mod your watch, there's 1,000 different mods you can get for the NH35. So this is a reliable movement. Now, they did definitely spend more creating this watch. The case is basically the same on both. There really is no difference. The case backs are the same. In fact, even the straps are very similar. I'm not sure if this was the same color as this one, and just over time it got darker, but they basically use the same thing, right? Everything is the same quality when it comes to the outer construction, except this has a signed crown, and this does not have a signed crown. A little bit disappointed this doesn't have a signed crown when this has a bold S for San Martin on this one. You know, it's the little things that make the difference to me. Another thing is the bezel. I feel like on the green, that solid bezel is just more indicative of something that's more expensive, because if you're going to have a solid bronze bezel that's popped on there, that to me is a little bit more expensive than just a bronze bezel with a bronze insert. I mean, these are two separate parts. I mean, I could be completely wrong. Somebody could say, hey, it takes more to make this than it does to make this, and maybe you're right. I don't know. It's just a feeling that I have. This feels, it feels good, but overall this just feels better. The movement in this I feel is better than this, but there is no denying the blue just looks amazing. The indices look better to me. I don't necessarily think the bezel looks better, but it is gonna attract a higher appeal to the general public with the two-part bezel, you know, that bezel with the bezel insert. I understand. And then some people don't even like that green triangle at the 12 o'clock on the bezel. And I get it. So they replaced it with the pip. And I understand that too. This, again, is more indicative of straight homage to a Submariner than this one is. This is like, hey, you know, it's like a bronze sub, but, you know, it still has characters of its own. And this is more like, hey, if the Submariner was a bronze Submariner, this is exactly what it would look like. And, you know, you're not wrong. Everything on this watch screams, hey, I'm an homage. Whereas this, you could say, hey, they took a lot of design cues off that sub, but not everything. Now, what do you guys think? What do you think is your favorite watch? Now, this blue one, again, is not my watch. I have to send it out to another reviewer to review. But this green dial is mine. It's my personal watch that I bought with my money. Now, these were both about the same cost, just under $300. I bought my green dial San Martin from Amazon a year and a half ago, and this right now, is just under $300 on AliExpress. I think that this offers a lot more value if you get that Pelican style case. I think if you get the blue dial that just has that nice sunburst effect, I think that you're just getting an overall better deal. I think this is better quality. The indices, again, applied. The Cyclops, I think, could be lined up a little bit better, but it does have far better magnification than the green. But again, what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Now, all in all, there's some pros and cons to each watch. The PT5000, I think, is far better than the NH35. I mean, it has a higher beat movement, and it just overall, to me, it just functions a little bit better. But the NH35 is not necessarily a bad movement. Again, these watches are basically the same price, and there is some cost cutting when it comes to each watch. If you want a better dial and you want better indices and better quality overall on the dial, you have to cut the cost in the movement. Whereas in the green dial, like I talked about, it has a great movement in it, but it has a weaker dial and weaker application of the indices. And it's just, really it comes down to what you guys want. Again, the green dial is discontinued, but it's still, I think, a great watch to watch that I still will never get rid of. Now, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment on the content you guys would like to see on this channel. I have so many videos coming up in the future. Make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell to make sure you're notified when I drop that next video. Until next time.